5:34, 5:35 p.m. Work session topic today
Budget.
is a budget discussion. So the packet that I downloaded from the city's website does not include this package of budget discussion items. It includes a quarterly report. So far, I've been unable to access the one you emailed to me directly. But if seems like the title is the same as the one I downloaded, so I've not been able to compare them.
For that.
Yep.
Yep.
But if you thought that this was noticed, it wasn't.
I think we all got it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
We're good.
sure.
Okay.
Work
I heard my
session
name.
contents do not have to be noticed.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
Where would you like to start?
At the beginning.
At the beginning?
Yeah.
All
Nikki,
right.
you still there? You didn't leave me? Okay.
Let me change that.
Huh?
But
Hold up.
let me change the audio speaker input. Hold on.
I'm gonna have to jump out and grab my phone. I left it in the truck. I'll be back.
Okay. Nobody can live without a phone now. Wow, they get all stressed. I throw mine in the water. Okay. Okay.
Is it okay if I make you the host, Nikki?
Sure.
Okay. Then, I mean, you can share from your screen or however you want to do it.
Okay. Are we ready?
Yeah, we can see that.
Okay, so these are changes to the general fund since the April 13th work session. At the April 13th work session, the general fund revenue total was 19.7 million. Now we are increasing sales tax, 165,000. This is a 7.5% increase to the sales tax category for fuel utilities, and this is just a placeholder. So general sales tax is now projected at 8.6 million. Remote seller sales tax is increasing 86,500. This is increased to 3.5%. The projection is based on a discussion I had with the Alaska Remote Seller Sales Tax Administrator. And so now remote seller sales tax is projected at $1,075,000. We have a $5,000 increase to real property interest, and this is just based on actuals. In the landfill, we have a $15,000 increase to maintenance fees. It's a 4.1% increase based on activity, and then an additional increase of $360,000 for a 100% increase to the fee structure that is currently billed by Nome Joint Utility and passed through to the city for landfill maintenance. In building equipment and land lease rents for Old St. Joseph's Church, we have $3,000 increase. This is just based on current activity for rentals. We have reduced the fund balance appropriation by $654,636. So the new fund balance is $271,723. This is a new FY27 working document revenue total of 19.6 million. Questions on the revenue changes?
I assume that the landfill fee change would be a council decision and not a utility decision.
It's council.
It's council. So we would have to pass that
Yes, sir.
change in an ordinance or resolution.
It's just part of the budget
Oh,
resolution
that's all it would take.
Yeah, it's not written.
for a
So it's
fee.
not like fees that we would have to vote on individually.
Uh-uh.
Does anybody know when the last time
1996. Kind of time.
The last time it was changed
Yes.
or increased. So it's been at that same $12.50 per month or.
Well, 20 years.
And do businesses and residential accounts pay the same?
30 years.
30.
30
30 years.
Oh, that's right. Got them all.
30 years.
Do what now?
Do residential and
And commercial.
pay the same, or is it different?
The commercial is a little different fee. Nikki, did we finally get that from NJUS? We got that.
No, we are still waiting for that to come over, but I can share that as soon as I receive it.
So it basically doubled for most
Yes.
utility customers
Yes.
from $12.50 to $25.
Yeah.
a month.
They collect that and then they remit that to us.
Understand.
Okay.
Understand. Is that fee, like with the port tariff, there's a COLA adjustment that's done every year so that, we don't have to wait
We need to
20 or
look at
30.
that.
And so would that be a separate approval, or could we write that into this budget process?
In the budget process.
Okay.
Where you can plan, say, this is what we're estimating to do. Now, obviously, every year you'll look at it and say, is that sufficient or we?
Right, sure, but just so it doesn't get forgotten about.
Yeah. And I will tell you, one of the things, I know the ports are working on the incinerator is a project that they've been looking at that we're interested in too. Instead of burying trash, actually having it incinerated, which can be or is, Joy, what the ships can bring certain things in, you can charge for disposal, and we do the same thing, keep things out of landfill. But that's on the project list for the ports, and they're looking at it, and we want to have combined conversations that, was there ever a design of any sort done, Joy?
There's a feasibility study.
There's like
that
a-
has design.
Okay.
Along with liquid waste and things.
Okay.
Incinerators and all the tandem. So
Yeah.
we're doing it as a phase.
So that's something we're looking at that could help time and what's going in there. So we're looking for alternatives. So, and I appreciate the port looking at that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And then I got a quick question. Just remind me again, the top numbers there, the budget, is that a three-quarter budget or is that a full year budget on the items?
This is
This is an annual one for
this is annual.
starting July 1.
Starting July 1.
Yes.
Are you? Okay. Are we looking at the whole thing for the year? How come it's got a talk about the quarters and the?
Well, that's just quarterly reporting, but
Right.
this is an annual budget.
It's a separate
Sure.
document, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're looking at the
They're not
document from the
yeah.
packet, that's current year without the fourth quarter accounted for yet.
Oh,
If you're
okay.
looking at the budget
Oh,
workflow
you
document,
Mhm.
that is FY '27, which is separate from what's in the packet.
Right. So are we discussing changes to fiscal year 26 or fiscal year 27 right now?
27,
The budget,
the
New
budget
budget.
for 27.
new budget.
Okay. Boy, I just downloaded your packet that you sent me and it's not in it. So, okay, all right. Pardon my confusion.
You good?
Don't look at your computer.
Huh?
That's what we're doing right there.
Yeah.
Page one.
It's an
Pen
annual
to
budget.
paper. That's why I killed a tree.
Alrighty.
Okay. Questions?
Are we ready for
And then my
expense?
question.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Say again, Nikki, I'm sorry.
Are we ready for expense?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So, at the April 13th work session, the total general fund expense was 19.7 million. We are decreasing administration salaries and benefits by $106,277. This is the removal of the assistant city manager salaries and benefits. A decrease of $10,000 to administration recruitment due to the removal of the assistant city manager position. A decrease of $500 in administration, insurance, and bond, again, because of the removal of the assistant city manager. In planning and engineering, a decrease of $74,447 for removing the part-time building inspector, both salary and benefits. In police travel and training, an increase of $13,000. This is for academy recertification for an additional 4 officers. The original budget was built with just 1 recertification, so the police department is expecting 5 recertifications in FY27. In public works buildings, a $5,470 decrease as a transfer out to the court operating budget for salaries and benefits. In public works roads, a $25,227 decrease, and this is also a transfer out to the port operating budget for salaries and benefits. In library salaries and benefits, an increase of $4,520. This is a change for the library assistant full-time to an assistant librarian, as this will be an additional level of responsibility. In gas and oils for all departments where it's applicable, an $18,450 increase. This is a 7.5% placeholder, as we don't have rates yet. In utilities electricity, an $18,247 increase, and still this is a 7.5% increase as a placeholder. In water sewer garbage, a $5,952 increase for a 5% placeholder. And utilities heat for all buildings, $21,615 for a 7.5% increase as a placeholder. At the visitor center for the Chamber of Commerce, an additional $20,000 to increase funding for their contract to $150,000. Questions about expense before we do transfers out?
Did you have any?
I was just gonna ask about the removal of the assistant city manager position, Lee, and if, I don't know if you just have
Yeah,
any thoughts or wanted to share.
We have a transfer out to capital projects for $50,000.
Oh,
This is
sorry.
for the purchase
Nikki,
of a
hang on a second.
966 loader.
Just
The estimated cost is $375,000 for a debt payment of $91,434 for 5 years. The estimated payment wouldn't start until early FY28. We are just budgeting for that freight. And again, below it, another $50,000 transfer out to capital projects for the purchase of a dump truck. Estimated cost of $180,000, debt payment estimate of $43,888, and estimated payment starting in early F28. And that takes us to a FY27 working document total of $19.6 million. Any questions about expense?
So Nikki, this is Adam. I had a question more for Lee, talking about the removal of the assistant city manager position. And I don't know when's a good time, but maybe kind of share. I guess I want to make sure that we're not cutting things too much.
Well, this was a new position. Right now, I just feel like we're still running tight. I will say I have put money in. I've been talking to a project management company and kind of tested them on different things, not just large capital projects, but they'll also work with you on smaller projects. And I've had my first meeting, and then I have another meeting in May to look at something like that to help support us in planning. Not so much dealing with projects, but there are things also about business methodology. I was really impressed with these folks. They can look at methods or your business process and help you with improvements, which was kind of nice too. And that may be the thing I need to do before I bring anyone on. So and I think we'll be fine for this year, but I still would like to keep it on the books as a request because succession planning. I don't want to get run over by a
So
cab.
do you have enough staff to cover for you as acting city manager when you travel, unless you're not planning on taking any time off for the next year?
I have one day off on the 8th to go to the doctor. I'm good to it. Yeah.
So I mean,
I have a backup. And I'll talk to you more about that but internal.
Yeah, sorry, that's.
Just as sort of a refresher, it's not really a new position. We got this, I think Councilmember Mark Johnson and I got this put in the budget quite a few years ago. When Glenn was here, it never got filled. And then I think when Megan came on board, it was kind of changed. The job description was changed to economic development.
It was not an assistant manager, it was assistant to.
It was, it was
Specific.
something different.
Yeah.
And so I think just as a general rule, I think it's good to have an assistant city manager full time because, we've seen here, if you're out of the office for whatever reason, for an extended period of time, we really do need to have somebody else.
Yeah.
The question I have is regarding the part-time building inspector.
Yes.
In the previous work session, did we have 2 full-time and a part-time or just 1 full-time and a part-time budgeted?
And a part.
One full-time, one part-time.
Okay, so it'll just be the 1 full-time position. And he's comfortable with that? Because I know we've
Yes.
got a lot of projects.
We've
and a
got
lot of
stuff
permitting.
coming.
And one of the challenges we've had in the past was that,
Yeah.
we couldn't get everywhere.
Yeah.
Get all
Well,
these projects
what I'm-
permitted. So kind of along Adam's question,
Yeah.
are we cutting too thin on this one? Do we need a part-time or maybe even 2 full-time building inspectors, at least while we have all of this development going on?
Well,
That's the question.
what I would like to do is see where we get this year on revenue. If there's something there, then to come into the winter and come back to you and say, okay, I can bring the other one on. I know where I'm going on this. Plus he being Jonathan is going to see what his workload is looking at. So, and same thing with the assistant to the manager. See where we are when we get mid-year. Are our estimates true? Have they helped, the possibility of doing that? If it is January 1st, it'd be 2 or 3 months to get someone hired. So, yeah. But I would come back, we'd have to find the revenue. And plus it's going to give me, with being down with some staff, it actually has enabled us to really see the processes and what people, are doing and not doing. So, yeah.
And regarding the visitor center, the increase in funding, it was what, 130?
130 to 150.
This past year. I assume it's still going to be closed during the winter months?
They do.
Because we don't really have a lot of visitors except for Iditarod. And
It's predominantly,
so we're not going to go back to being open 12 months a year because
No.
right now they're open.
No.
They close in right after the last cruise ship, I think, and then reopen for
I
Iditarod.
think
And
it's
then
pretty similar to the way it was before.
Okay, so we're not going to see a
Yeah.
major change in the hours?
No.
Okay, that's it. Thanks.
Nikki?
I'm still here.
Okay. Are there particular areas you want us to go to as far as a department where you have questions?
Just think we're moving in the right direction.
I feel like we are.
$1.1 million deficit 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
To
Well, the other is, I'm glad to see us at least turning the ship now on reserves. Because, my ultimate plan with council is to get to a point where we have an annual appropriation. We know what it is to reserve. You fund reserves. That way you have a 90-day in case you have problems. I will tell you your biggest issue is, let's say you have God forbid, a Merbach or a larger. You bring FEMA in, you have to pay all of your bills up front. And depending on the size of the emergency, we could be in trouble because we don't have what I would say is sufficient. I don't like using rainy day fund, but people get what that is. We are not sufficiently funded as far as reserves, particularly for emergencies.
Everybody else, I'm good. I'm going to ask them. So I'm going to go back to the last work session that we had, and you included a list of potential revenue alternatives.
Yes.
And one of them was the increase to landfill fees, which, I certainly support if it hasn't been
Yes.
adjusted for 30 years. It's definitely past due. But you also indicated on here a again, these are just potential special revenue options, is a 6% tax on tobacco, marijuana, and alcohol.
Yes.
And your annual revenue estimate for that, assuming a start date of January 1st, 2027, is $500,000. No, more now.
It's more than that.
Is it 900?
You're talking, 3, 7, you're close to 900.
900,000.
Yeah.
Is that what they call a sin tax?
Yeah, but
I mean,
when I
it's-
talk to them, people are going, don't call it that, you know, and
Okay.
I don't,
I mean, could you explain kind of what that would entail? How it would get passed, how it would be assessed, just
sure.
how it would work? Because I know
Yeah.
we've talked about this quite a bit.
Yeah.
I don't think it's ever come up
Yeah.
to a vote or serious.
Well, and
consideration.
obviously you don't have to do, you know, that now, but we have the time frame because it takes a referendum, vote of the people. to do it.
Vote of the public
Yes.
for any of those three categories.
Yeah. And I do have some thought and talking to the attorneys and Dillingham, have been very helpful on some things, the managers and folks there. But, some have referendums where they're all together. Some have referendums where they are separated to see if they can get them passed. I don't know how I feel about that one way or the other, but that's something we'll need to talk about this summer before we have to have this in by August if we're doing to referendum, give or take? Mid-August, I think, isn't it?
Before that,
Okay.
end of July.
End of July, okay. So, we'll take it to the folks. I know, Councilman Johnson has had a lot of inquiry about that. I've actually met with, and I do want to say, we did get the, information out and a letter with detail to the owners about, alcohol. I think I gave you a copy. I just haven't think about that. Yeah. So, it's something to look at. I will tell you, they run as high as 15%.
We did it twice since I've been on here. Tried, but the council didn't.
They have to pass a resolution supporting it.
And
then-
putting it on,
And that's what
on the
we get,
ballot.
just like we went through with the sales tax.
yes, sir, same process. Yeah.
Early in my time,
Is that how long have you been on?
since 17,
2017.
2017.
It's
So at
been,
that
it's been a
point-
while.
At that point in time, there wasn't enough council support.
Nope.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Anchorage has one of these too, right?
Yes.
A lot of communities in
Oh, yeah, I thought,
have this.
there were, God, I mean, I've got the list, but most of the state have it, most of boroughs and cities. But the only thing different is I did not like in some, I will give an example. I think it's Bethel. It's when you look at how they do it in like with marijuana, they have, it's like grams and ounces. And that's why I've said, look, it should be based on, as far as I'm concerned, and Clinton with AML, he's the tax guy. He said, Lee, make it simple. And he said, with referendums, people are not going to understand that. If you say 6% based on the retail part, he said, I would not recommend you get into these other, it is too confusing.
Right.
Yeah.
So if it was, a 6% tax, then folks would pay basically 12%
Correct.
in addition to the 6% sales
They
tax.
run
Plus this additional.
Close to 15%.
Sin tax, if you will, huh?
Yeah, 15% is kind of the average for the sin tax. I would think they were like 18 that did it that way, based on retail, and it is the simpler way to do it versus these. It's almost like self-reporting. I can track sales tax. I can't track ounces and all these things. That was just way too complicated.
I'm wondering if there's a way to gauge the public's interest or potential interest in something like this.
Well,
Well, this would require a code change. We could do a ordinance code change, which goes through 2 readings, It has public hearing and public commentary attached to it. And it would, if it passed, it would only be ratified with the vote of the people during an election.
Right, like the sales tax.
Exactly like this.
You know.
But then you
I'm just
have
wondering if
the
there's a way to
public hearing
gauge that
portion.
before we go
Yeah.
down that road, just because
We
it might
could.
be wildly unpopular or reverse.
I mean, we could work with the media. We could get something out that, I hate to call it a survey, but somehow maybe it is. But we get the information out on social media. What are your thoughts? But actually have them do some sort of a survey. I don't
Get
know.
enough council support, sounds like, but that was 9 years ago.
Well, I look at it from the standpoint of why not at least research it, see what the community, as you say, community thinks, and maybe it's a possibility.
That would solve a lot of funding problems we have, whether it's
It
the
sure would help.
schools or
Yep.
just all kinds of things.
And they said when there have been referendums or when they've had referendums, it was never close. It was either or. They wanted it or they didn't. And they said the big thing was just doing the education piece, which we did some of that with sales tax, but a lot of that word of mouth with the sales tax, I believe, got it passed, and just talking to groups and people about what it meant.
Have you looked, in your short time here, have you looked at any other potential revenue generators or increases that would have this big of an impact? You know, literally close to $1 million
Yeah.
a year in additional revenue.
Yeah.
Have you looked at anything that even is remotely close to that?
Exemptions. Looking at exemptions and doing away with some exemptions. I will tell you, I feel, and well, I know there are other exemptions that are not being given appropriately. They may not meet the letter of the law. So that's part of what we want to bring to you, but bring in, remember I talked about it last year, bringing in 26, an auditor that actually can go out at business and personal property, but also to look at some of the sales tax. I know I've had some calls from folks, but about sales tax. But if they're not a specific, nonprofit, government, there were several things, then it doesn't apply. And we've had some who have been getting it that should not. It does not meet the IRS rules, state or federal. So you can do it here, but we're not really supposed to. They're not eligible. And there's a number of those.
Hey, Nikki, are you still on the line?
I'm still here.
Do you know on average how much the city generates in revenue from the personal property tax? I know that's kind of a weird,
Wasn't it listed?
we got property tax, but it's not, maybe it is in this.
It's broken down right here.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
About
It's just under a $500,000 F-24, F-25.
Yeah.
And F-27, it's projected at 617,000.
Is it possible that this particular tax has the ability to more than offset if we decide to get rid of the personal property tax altogether? Because isn't the personal property tax one of the taxes that there's so much compliance issues, people do it, value property and assets differently. Some are exempt, some are not. There's just always, there's a lot of weird stuff with it.
Consistency in the way things
So it
are
might
calculated.
simplify the tax code.
Yes, I totally.
Taking it,
agree.
lifting a pretty significant burden off of administrative staff. If we look at, and I'm just throwing ideas, spaghetti against the wall here. If we got close to $1 million on, the sin tax, and we got rid of the personal property tax altogether, because there's a lot of challenges associated with that.
We do the analysis, something we could do this fall and take a look at how we move forward with it, but, I agree 100%.
I would.
Because
more
there's
than solve a
always
bunch of
give and
problems this
take.
year. Obviously, it's not gonna
Yeah,
affect this
yeah.
year too much, but.
We're walking here.
So there's two other items that have been brought up for revenue enhancement or stuff. One of them, John brought up the other day about raising the filth the possibility of eliminating sales tax from, eliminating the sales taxability of the electricity service, and then increasing the rate by 6%.
Talking about fuel tariff?
This is not the fuel tariff, just on electricity. Make it not sales tax, make it not be a sales
Exempt from
taxable item.
sales. So utility bills would be
Raise-
exempt from sales.
Raise it 6%, right. And then pay back to the city what they would have got from sales tax plus more. Currently, we have a $250,000 PILT from NJU,
Payment in lieu of taxes.
right? Right. So we could adjust that number to make up for what we lost in sales tax, and with that change. That would be one method of,
How would we pay for it? Or how would the utilities pay for it, I guess?
they're gonna raise their rates. They're undergoing a rate study now. If they eliminated the sales tax, they could raise their rates by an amount to accommodate that, and then give the city a PILT of basically that amount across their entire production instead of just the part of the production that is sales taxed now.
So they just adjusted the utility tariff, right?
They have,
I think
they're
you were
doing a
telling me
rate
they
study
got
was
rid of
what
the,
John said.
Fuel surcharge, right? I think it was a recent change, didn't it? They got rid of the generator, that fuel surcharge that's on utility bills, and now the base rate is higher. I just learned of this today.
They're doing an analysis, so
I-
they are doing an analysis. That's
When
all
he
I
was
know.
here and spoke of it, he didn't provide a timeline. He said they were doing a rate study. I don't think that it's finished yet.
Maybe not.
But what data points do we need to make a good decision on that? And I'd also like to take a look more seriously, in depth, at also doing the same thing for oil and charging a tariff for bringing it into town, such as we've discussed.
How about
not a
fuel
whole lot,
tariff? Yeah.
But a fuel tariff, right. I think that if, I would love for the council to figure out what data points that we need to come up with in order to make an informed decision about these two types of changes to our tax code, and see whether or not that's something that we want to do or absolutely can't do because it's either illegal, which I haven't run across any legal barriers to this yet from the a little bit of research that I've done. So I'm thinking it's possible and doable, and we could actually have perhaps a little bit more control over our revenue than we do now, as a result of being able to set those.
Oh, you were going
I'm
to
okay.
say something. The PILT issue, the payment in lieu of taxes, that's really a utility decision, right? An NJUS, it's not really a city council decision on what they decide or choose to pay payment in lieu of taxes, right?
I don't know
I mean,
that,
we can't impose that on the utilities.
but they would be willing to work cooperatively with us.
Yeah, right, but that's
Yeah.
kind of their decision, I guess, in terms of if they decide, we would have to exempt utilities from sales tax,
Sure,
the city
or
council.
at least electricity generation part, sure.
Right.
And then
We've talked about the fuel tariff before.
we talked about it a little bit before,
Pretty straightforward concept.
right? And, and we could use an average retail price for setting that on a 12-month rolling index.
So the concept is pretty straightforward, customers pay sales tax on purchases of fuel.
Right.
And a fuel tariff would work in which, right now, the city generates revenue when the fuel companies sell fuel to customers and collect a 6% sales tax. The fuel tariff would work a little bit differently, where the tariff is assessed and collected by the city when fuel is imported into Nome, instead of being sold. So when barges show up and deliver a couple million gallons of fuel, that's when the tariff is assessed. And so right now, just say as an example, you know, the price of fuel, I'm just using this as an example, say it's $6 a gallon, right? So under the current sales tax code of 6%, the sales tax that most customers pay per gallon of fuel is 36 cents, right? I mean, that's,
Yeah.
so that, so it would potentially, you know, so there would be potentially, instead of 6% sales tax charge on the purchase of fuel, gasoline, heating fuel, diesel, whatever, sales tax would be, or fuel would be exempt from sales tax. But instead, a 36 cent per gallon tariff would be charged on all fuel brought into Nome.
Right.
And that would be for fuel that's then basically resold by the fuel companies. If you're trying to do that with the utilities, it would have to work a little bit differently because they don't resell fuel. They use the diesel that they buy to generate power, which they sell. So that's, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. And then, you know, you may want to, if the council was going to go down that road, you may want to look at some kind of an adjustment to that tariff, because, you know, sales tax is, the amount of the sales tax per gallon of fuel fluctuates based on the price and the cost of fuel, right? It changes. And you might want to have a similar mechanism in there that adjusts the tariff based on an average price of fuel, so that you're not, you know, stuck too low or stuck too high, but that it fluctuates. And my understanding is just basically an ordinance, you know, by the council, right? Passing an ordinance by the council, right? That's how a tariff would be implemented, and that's how the sales tax would be exempted, right?
It could be done separately.
Well, yeah, I mean, but the council would make those decisions. It wouldn't go as like a referendum where the utilities.
There's a number of ways to push that to its finish line.
Right. And one potential benefit for the city is that its revenue would be, I think, much easier to predict or project on an annual basis. Because, you know, I mean, the port keeps detailed records of the amount of fuel coming across the port, you know, and from that. So I'm not necessarily advocating for or against that. I think that's just one potential idea.
Sure.
And I think a goal should be, if we go down that road, that the average consumer does not pay more for a gallon of fuel, because fuel's already expensive. So I think the public would have to be convinced that they're not going to pay any more for a gallon of gas at the pumps or a gallon of heating fuel in their tanks. If we do this, it would be essentially for the average sales tax paying customer, the cost of their fuel is not going to change. Right. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So it's a pretty straightforward concept, but it'd be a fuel tariff instead of sales tax.
Thank you for that explanation.
So I would think this summer is something that we could, obviously it's not now, but with NJUL, whatever, but let's do a group work session, get the attorney here or whoever, and let's walk through it.
But
You know,
utilities
how
would
we
be
do
a
it.
little bit more complicated because
Oh, yeah.
they're not reselling fuel like fuel companies
Yeah.
are. They're selling kilowatt. And how do you translate that into per kilowatt hour that every gallon of diesel produces?
Yeah.
Well,
And the fact that consumers pay a different rate for their electricity than commercial customers or businesses do, because there's this thing called PCE that basically, you know, subsidizes, you know, rates that, like, you know, homeowners pay.
Mhm.
That we all pay on our electric bills, as opposed to businesses or customers or commercial customers,
Commercial rate versus.
because they're not
residential.
eligible for PCE. So it's not, it may not make sense for the utilities. I don't know.
I know.
So, but that's basically how the fuel tariff, I think, the concept would work.
Well, you guys brought it up, and it's been brought up a lot, even by people speaking at our couple of comments and I think one of the hearings about
It's
the
just an
tariffs.
idea.
So I say, like any of these, let's throw them out there and litmus test, is it something we can do, and will it work? Yep. And one I would bring up, and I'm gonna do it, and then, let's see, there's Cole. And, if you live outside the city, one of the things that we can do, it increases some costs, but it does bring in money, is that we would create a borough, a combined city and borough government. That's been one of the things that AML said you could do that. And you will capture everything outside for sales tax, or we don't receive where people come into the city and use services. Other than sales tax, we don't get funds from property tax. So, do you level the playing field like that? I don't know. It's something to think about and talk about. So.
I certainly think there could be some compelling arguments to do some looking into either expanding city limits or the creation of Bacon, the borough and city of Nome. I think there's some true taxpayer equity issues.
Bacon.
Bacon. Everybody loves bacon.
Oh, I was like, what?
When you call it the city of Nome, it just doesn't have the same ring as bacon.
I got
Okay.
Okay.
Keeping it moving along.
If you go down to expanding city limits, you really have to compare the cost of the city providing services
Yes.
versus the additional revenue that's actually going to be generated.
Well, that's why you do it. What's the return? And that'd be part of the analysis. Plus capturing that, is it worth capturing that part? Or there's things like people from the outside, and I've had these in one city to another. If you did not live in the city proper, your fees were different. It was a higher fee for certain services because they did not pay property tax, only sales tax. So there's a myriad of things we can do, but we look at all of them, do the analysis, and like I said, the ROI, what is it? Am I cutting my own throat? We've got to check that. So I had to bring that one up because I mentioned, and I did it at the end, but. Our fees this year, I will tell you, and Jonathan is doing a very good job. We were not collecting inspection fees when we would go out to do an inspection. It's in the ordinance. We're supposed to charge it, but it had not been done for years. We have reinstated that. Well, I say reinstate, we just started charging. And it's been okay. But Jonathan talked a lot to folks. If we see what that revenue is, that may be the revenue that would help me bring in another building inspector or pay for part of it. So there's another thing we're doing, but it was already on the books. So that was easy, so we're looking at the low hanging fruit. Yeah. Other questions?
Oh, no, just onward and upward.
Okay.
Oh, it looked like you had something to say, and so
Yeah.
that's why.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, you look like he's-
I've still not
No,
learned
I'm
your
eager.
questions
No,
coming
yeah,
look.
no. I'm eager to get to page
So
one
you're
of this
saying that
document.
you don't have anything?
I've got a lot of things going on back.
Okay.
But none of them are budget related?
Well, I'm waiting for us to get to page one of the next section. and Go from there.
You ready? Pass it back to Nikki.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Nikki. You're on mute, Nikki.
Actually, I lost sound for a second. Do you want me to go to the port budget, or do you want to
Where do you want her to
look
go?
at?
Yeah, I'd go ahead and do the port budget. Let's get through that and then we can hit our line items
Okay.
on the general fund.
Is that screen share following me to the port presentation?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, in the revenue in port operating, overall revenue before transfers is projected at 2.9 million, an increase of approximately 10% in comparison with the FY26 original budget of 2.6 million before fund balance appropriation. The following changes in revenue are due to fluctuations in regional projects requiring transit shipment and rock gravel exports. both of which drive higher fuel quantities to be imported. And the Causeway facility revenue is projected to increase $72,500, an increase of approximately 5%. Major changes are noted in miscellaneous revenue, an increase of $60,000, an increase in dockage for $20,000, and wharfage drive for $20,000 based on expected activity. Wharfage fuel is projecting a slight decrease of $10,000, and wharfage gravel a decrease of $25,000 based on previous year over projections and current data for 2026 projects. Total Causeway revenue is $1,469,500. In harbor facility revenue is projected to increase $31,500. Major differences are in harbor wharfage drive for an increase of $75,000, wharfage fuel increase of $25,000, and miscellaneous term revenue for $9,000. Seasonal docking permits are projected to decrease $25,000. Wharfage gravel is projected to decrease $20,000, and storage rentals are projected to decrease $20,000. Total harbor revenue is $755,000. Industrial park revenue is projected at $586,500 with an increase of $135,000, and this is for leases for additional laydown areas. Interest earnings are projected at $69,644. CD investment rates have decreased to 3.5% to 3.7% compared to F26, which was at 4.1% and 4.2%. And the fund balance appropriation is 0. Any questions about the revenue?
Okay, no, go ahead.
Nikki?
In expense.
Oh, there you go.
In expense, overall expenditure before transfers is projected at $2,051,794. This is a decrease of approximately 1% as compared to the budget. Transfers out of $275,000 to port capital projects for non-grant related expenses, and a transfer out of $635,350 to port capital projects as a contribution to future capital projects. Total expenditures after transfers is $2.9 million. Causeway facility expense is projected at $522,000, an increase of $14,845. There are small increases in labor and benefits, an increase of $20,000 in professional services engineering related to repair and improvements, an increase to operating supplies for $8,000 for the bull rail repair, an increase to machinery and equipment for $15,000 as a placeholder for potential maintenance on the water trailer air compressor, decreases in road maintenance materials for $10,000, and fuel line maintenance for $20,000. In harbor facility expense projected at $202,066. This is a decrease of approximately $3,600. There's a major increase of $10,000 in professional services for engineering and dredging maintenance and repair, and $15,000 in machinery and equipment as a placeholder for maintenance on equipment, and a decrease of $10,000 in spill supplies, $5,000 in docks and foundations, and $4,500 in maintenance materials. Industrial park facility expense is projected at $246,210, a decrease of $4,400. There's a $20,000 increase to professional services for the removal of the dugong, as well as for AFS cameras, a $5,000 increase to road materials, a $25,000 decrease to fuel lines maintenance, and a $5,000 decrease to machinery and equipment. In port administration expense projected at $1,063,000, a decrease of about $19,000. In salaries and benefits, there's a 20% cost share with the finance staff, 35% goes to Causeway, and 65% to port admin, and there's a 12% cost share for IT. In salaries and benefits, there's an increase of about $83,889. There's an added additional Deputy Harbor Master 1 and then a promotion from Deputy Harbor Master 1 to a 2, and removing the dock watch position. Professional services decreased 90,000, legal decreased 30,000, and IT has increased 6,250 for PC replacements. Questions and expense?
Nikki, if I could just ask, jump back to revenue, I guess one question that came up in my mind, do we have a cruise ship head tax, or maybe Lee would know, or maybe Joy would know? It's okay.
We have, yeah, I'll take that, Nikki. We have we call it a passenger fee and a facility fee,
Okay.
two separate charges that is assessed to everyone that gets off the ship and leaves, and everyone that gets back on the ship. When they do a passenger turn at the airport.
Okay, yeah, thanks
And
for
there's
that.
also the state head tax.
Right,
It's charged on all the facilities for 7 ports that vessel stops at, receives a portion of the fees.
thank you.
Oh, sorry.
There's a $10,000 cut of spill supplies. Why is it being cut?
Well, I will ask did you hear that, Joy? Cut to, say that louder so she can.
$10,000 cut in spill response, spill supplies, I think. That's what you're asking.
Lauren was asking that
What's
why
being-
cut.
Why? Because we have a significant quantity. Yeah, we're just overstocked from last year, and we don't really want
No
to
spills.
inundate ourselves. We've got a container full.
Don't want to store any more stuff.
Yeah, we're not cutting ourselves short.
It's still
Okay.
fuel.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Nikki.
I think I may have lost volume again. Sound?
Yeah, we hear you fine.
Okay, I couldn't hear you for a second.
Yeah.
Are you ready for port capital projects?
Yes.
Okay, in the revenue in port capital projects, overall revenue is projected at 10.8 million. We have 1.2 million in revenue for the Typhoon Merbach damages. We're still working through some of those projects, the Causeway Road plus 3 docks and Causeway Utilities project. There is 5.5 million placeholder for the 23 DC 006 draft port grant. It's just an estimated because we don't know final expenses yet until we get to June 30. We have a $3 million grant for the USDOT MERAD build grant. 204,400 in interest earnings on the PONM escrow. 275,000 as a transfer in from port operating to cover non-grant funded projects, and $635,350 transferred in from port op revenue surplus and assigned to port capital projects and future needs. The expense breaks down into 10.8 million as well, with 1.2 million for the Merbach damages, 5.5 million as a placeholder for the deep draft port grant expenses, 204,400 as a placeholder for the interest earnings, 3 million for the build grant for Snake River Moorage, $150,000 grant match for the build grant, 50,000 for the port waste reception facility for the incinerator concept, 40,000 for high mast lights for middle dock repair and upgrade, and 35,000 for Thornbush IP for further laydown development, and that contribution to fund balance for future capital needs of 635,350. Questions on capital projects?
No.
And then besides that, we provided the detail, the line items behind each one of the presentation slides so that you're able to look through that and see if you have any questions in the future. Did you want me to go back to the general fund, Lee?
Yes, please.
And to expense? Which department?
Well, Well, let's start at the beginning. We can walk through them if there are no questions in a department. Keep moving if they're, so really just start with what, legislative, I guess?
So in legislative, we have 1 mayor and 6 council members for a salary and benefit total of $129,091. We projected a 5% increase in the public officials insurance bond, taking that to $86,131 this year. We hope to have rates between May 4th and May 11th. We think most everything else is pretty flat. And we did increase mayor travel for some additional conferences to $10,000. And we increased operating supplies about $700 to cover 4th of July street games and food expenses for meetings and Boynton copy fees. Questions in legislative? In administration, we have 1 city manager, 1 executive assistant, and 1 administrative support specialist. In finance, 1 finance director, 1 assistant finance director, 1 accounting tech 2, 1 accounting tech 2, 80% finance, 20% fire, and 1 accounting tech 3, 85% port, 15% finance, and 1 clerical helper casual. Total salaries and benefits at $1.2 million. We have a $10,000 decrease in legal services, and we just base that on activity. We have $39,814 in professional services and contracts, and that is down. We had previously last year had an additional contract, and now it has escaped me what that is. But this year we have the unit budget program for $20,873, which is new in F26 and will continue into F27. We have $500 on the expense account, just as a placeholder. We increased advertising about $2,500 and advertising for job openings about $3,000. We have $11,550 in the IT computer network hardware. We have several PC replacements that need to happen in F27.
We'll say, and I mean, this is pretty typical, but it has been some years since we've replaced a lot of our IT equipment, routers, switches, those kind of things. So we're starting to work into a replacement cycle. That way, again, you know what to expect over the next couple of years. So we're working in that direction.
So you're
Behind.
replacing a lot of existing IT infrastructure like this?
I'm just going to yank it out the ceiling, but no, yes, sir.
So we are gonna replace the sound
We're
system
gonna
later,
do
or
something.
a viable
We
alternative?
get viable alternative.
I think we've heard of, there's some potential other viable alternatives
There
that
are.
may be out there that might be a lot cheaper than
Yeah.
replacing the system.
I'm going to get Ben to come in here.
I would like to note the electricity at City Hall has been down considerably since the replacement of the HVAC system. So that budget was lowered to $5,805 compared to $11,500 at 26.
I don't like the heat on
Any
this.
questions in that end?
I was just gonna ask a question, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with admin, but
In IT, we have 1
Jeff.
full-time IT specialist.
Nikki,
Question.
Nikki, question.
Sorry, Nikki, we're seeing a pretty substantial increase in healthcare cost across all of our
May I
departments.
heard please say a question and then I'm not hearing anything else.
Nikki, can speak up? Can you hear us now?
Yeah, she can.
Oh.
Hold on.
Wait a minute.
It is true that if there's no noise, there's absolutely no way that she can hear us. So if I keep talking loudly, she may eventually hear us, even though I'm not really saying
Trying to
anything.
get
But
at
Nikki, can you hear
All
us
right.
now?
And I can hear again.
Okay. Nikki, this is Adam. It wasn't necessarily specific to administration. I just saw across all the departments, we've got a pretty large bump in health insurance premiums. Is that just where the market is headed? We haven't changed any of the offerings or anything like that. We're
We
just
changed at the end of, end of last fiscal year. You're already in that process when I came. And so we switched over July 1st.
And that saves some money too, didn't it? Or did it? Maybe.
Not really. The one thing we did is we were able to at least offer a little better benefits. But we just talked about that, Nikki, today. What was did they give us any indication of, we're kind of sitting back waiting on that? Do you want to explain that? Are you doing this just to get
You
the
brought up the
system?
phone system.
it was working.
Jinxed it.
Case in point.
See, I know, see, it's damned at that. Nikki?
I should caveat that by saying I think it's important to take care of our employees and make sure that they've
Well,
got good health insurance.
Okay.
I was
Bottom line
surprised it was
is-
like a 35% across the most
Health
departments.
insurance
It's
is usually
it's
a
a
big
huge.
driver in increasing administrative.
What was the
costs.
question again, Lee?
We're talking about the health insurance increase. I know we're waiting to see specifically what it is. We have an idea. We're hoping it will
hopefully
drop
be a little
down
lower
or
than that
hold.
reason. Yeah.
is our hope. So, yeah. PERS, they're looking at 22,
She says
what was it? Another 2% on PERS, which is pretty major too.
15% projected increase.
15% increase.
This year? In PERS?
That,
Or is
No,
this
health
with
insurance.
the-
That was health
Insurance.
insurance.
insurance
Oh, 15% this year, this next fiscal year.
could be based on what the market is saying and our.
Is there an
result.
AML pool for this, or am I thinking of something else?
There
Another
is,
insurance.
but right now I've talked to Niels with AML. So I'm interested in getting quotes, but
So we're not
We're
currently
not-
participating
not yet.
in AML's.
There's some things we need to,
USI is
Yeah.
our broker.
So we're going straight to the market
yeah, that's what we do.
without, okay.
Yeah.
Because AML's pool is pretty big, isn't it? But
Yeah.
may not
I'm-
generate the savings.
No, and I'm just telling you, for managers and administrators from other cities and boroughs, they're backing off and some are going self-insured. It
As
was
the
cheaper.
premiums just-
They're taking on more risk locally.
Right.
And that's the thing, you take more risk.
Those are probably, I'm assuming those are, communities that choose to self-insure are much larger, I
To-
would think, than we are, because that would
Yeah.
be a significant risk for a small community.
Yeah, because we're self-insured. We got, what is it, 100,000? Is the first 100,000's us. And then after that, yeah,
So it's not a portion, obviously.
that's right.
Catastrophic.
Yeah, yeah. So it's one of those, it keeps, it just depends on what the market does,
Right.
so you do walk in that little blind, I don't think we're gonna be far off. I'm hoping it will be like 12%.
So we're budgeting for 15.
Yeah, and if not, then all of a sudden we do have a little bit, But you're right, our biggest increase, we do have some projects that push the budget number up, but there's a wash because there's a revenue and an expenditure. So those, for instance, Chip's basketball courts all over town. Sorry, Chip. The big one and then two small ones is what we're looking at, but that's, there was 250,000 originally and we have a grant for 250. We're gonna add 100 to it, but from another source, so we can do this. But anyway, when you see those, that pushes the budget up. The other is we're filling positions.
I think at the last work
Yeah.
session, you said that the 1% sales tax increase was almost, all of it was being absorbed by
Correct.
increases in personnel costs, either from filling vacant positions or
Correct.
like health insurance premiums.
And that's why we went after it, because we've said at this point, if we don't have, we would have had to have gone in this year to go find 2.2 million. We would have, yeah. So it saved us.
Yeah, I think
Literally.
it's critical we look at some of these potential big revenue generators.
Lee, can you hear me yet?
Yes,
Now we can.
now we can.
Oh, good.
To
Okay.
bridge.
I took care of you on all the rest, so next question. I got you.
Can I ask a police department question?
Sure, Chief's here too.
So we were talking earlier about a potential alcohol, tobacco, marijuana tax. Just curious, the NPD's budget or maybe operations, what percentage of your calls are alcohol related? Just as a guess, or, you know. I mean,
If I gave you an actual number, I'd probably have to say the majority of them.
like more than 50%.
Yeah, it's the majority of calls that, serious calls. I'm not talking, my car broke down. and stuff
I'm
like
just saying in general.
But generally, when we're responding, there's some sort of alcohol playing a part in that, at least in some
least 50%.
form or fashion.
More than 50% most likely.
Yes, sir.
Sorry for putting you on the spot.
No. I
That's
just
why
don't have the exact percentage, but it's a good substantial amount.
I'm just curious on the syntax, can we dedicate a portion of those revenues? Like if we were to implement them either on one product or all products,
Sure.
could you dedicate
A
a
portion.
portion of that revenue for a specific purpose? Like, for example, if we implemented, according to just these rough estimates, generating $900,000 to $1 million a year in increased revenue, could you say dedicate half of that, 50% of that to funding the schools?
It appears you can, but I've asked Sam and Charles that, and I should have something back, but, this week. But I asked that same question.
Could we?
And that also can aid in getting it passed.
Yeah, I'm just asking.
I'm
a
just,
question.
yeah. Oh, I'm always thinking, how do you market it?
Because that would,
I got you.
thanks.
Nikki, you're on again. Or
Okay,
not.
can you still see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so we have one full-time IT specialist in IT, 88% to the general fund, 12% to the port. We have the Angelcom GEMS contract, $120,701 to the general fund, and project work and travel at $60,000. That is been increased over last year. $80,734 in IT support services that are used for servers, storage devices, as well as our website. And then we have that debt payment, estimated debt payment of $52,100 for the end of life servers and switches, and that we would look at Dell financing when we get ready to do that, and a $15,000 contingency for a total of $452,173. Questions about IT?
Nope.
No. In the city clerk's office, we have one city clerk, two deputy clerks, and one clerical helper casual for a total of $515,874 in salary and benefits. A $5,000 increase in legal services. A $5,000 increase in professional contract services. We have a slight decrease in election expenses going from $16,860 to $12,000. A $2,000 increase in advertising. A $5,000 increase in IT. I believe that we also have some PC replacements to do in the clerk's office. of a $10,000 increase to travel, training, and related costs. I think we have 3 people traveling to conferences in F27. Correct, Dan?
Correct. Yeah.
A decrease in operating supplies of $2,000 and a total city clerk budget of $712,991. Questions for the city clerk's budget? In planning and engineering, we have 1 full-time building inspector. Salaries and benefits at $196,470. We have 1 vehicle being used. We have an increase in engineering services of $15,000. I believe that's due to projects. In other professional contract services, we have an increase from $65,000 to $192,000, and the majority of this is we've set aside $100,000 for a project manager. We have $10,000 in travel and training. And then we have a total budget in planning and engineering of $495,046. Questions in planning and engineering?
I did increase the contract with our planner because this year we are going to be going into, particularly with the planning commission, the comprehensive plan, which is due, land use, zoning, and those will happen over the next couple of years. So I upped it about, in the contract by about 20,000 total, and took the hourly rate up a little bit. It wasn't that much. So I did expand that because we're going to need some help getting those plans out. Okay, Nikki.
In the police department, we have 1 chief of police, 1 lieutenant, 2 sergeants, and 8 officers, 1 communication officer supervisor, 5 full-time communication officers, and 2 part-time communication officers, 1 administrative assistant, 1 accreditation manager, and 1 victims advocate, and 1 detective, for a total payroll of $4.3 million. The majority of the police budget increase is in salaries and benefits, where we've added a couple new positions this year, an additional officer and lieutenant. We've also increased travel and training, as I mentioned earlier, so that they can send 5 officers to the academy for recertification. So that's up 28,000 total. We are up close to 7,000 in firearms and ammunition, and I believe Chief Mike is replenishing his armory. And we have a $500 placeholder for impound expense. We have increased recruitment back to 22,000 while he's trying to fill vacant positions. And most everything else is fairly normal, with a total police budget of $4.9 million. Questions for the police department?
Mark texted me and wanted me to make a comment to the city manager that the budget increase is too much again for the police department, and he wants you to take a look at that. Keep working on it.
Okay. Say specifically?
No, he's on the plane. He can't get on this.
Okay.
He's just watching he can get on KNOMs, he said.
Sure, to add on to that, can I ask a question? Have we added, like, how many new positions are there?
There's
Just 1? I know we reclassified,
Yeah.
right? Some existing positions.
Actually, there's only 1 position difference because 1 position, we went down to 7 officers for the 2026 budget and added the deputy chief of police or lieutenant. So that position was reallocated to a lieutenant's position. In 2027 or 2026, 2027 budget, what we're doing is just reinstituting that officer's position that was taken away in 2026. So we'll have eight officers and 4
Chief and a lieutenant.
Yeah, 8 officers total, and then 2 sergeants, deputy chief, and myself.
And do you think, based on the calls you get, do you think that's a reasonable number?
The problem with only running 7 officers, if you factor in the fact that usually they have 1 officer working on day work. So if I'm working during the week, I can back this officer on call, et cetera. But weekends, no, I can come out, but I'm not routinely working. And of course, it's just about having 2 officers for officer safety reasons on a lot of the calls. And that's what the personnel is. So
the increase in 1 full-time position is really about officer safety.
it's officer safety positions. And also what it allows is the fact that, this year I lost 3 officers. And of course, with the 4th position, that's 4 people that have to go to the academy, and I'm the 5th. So there's 5 people having to go to the academy too. But it also allows, with being up to full staff, allowing for training classes that need to be taken by those officers as well. So that way, you usually have at least 1 officer or 2 officers working at peak hours. And that's what we shoot for. Other than that, if we go back to the days when I first took over, when we were on 1 on day work and 1 on nights, and it's a disaster, a recipe for disaster. It just really is. Because, it's when we get our highest call volume, we have 1 officer available for the whole city. And it's not a good recipe.
I would imagine you expect it to get a lot busier this summer, especially with all of the construction companies, just the tremendous amount of activity, both in terms of people and vehicles and equipment and just everything going on. So I think it's logical to assume that NPD is going to be a lot busier than maybe it normally is, just simply because there's so much more stuff going on.
Well, yeah, you got 1 main camp that's existing right now, and then you got the other main camp that's going to be built. And I'm trying to get up to full staffing so we can accommodate the calls for service increase. That probably will accommodate that.
So that's the question. Thanks.
Oh, no, I'm happy to answer.
I will say I did offer the full-time position of chief, and he has accepted, and we are now negotiating. It's just nail biting, so I'm excited to have him on board.
Thank you.
Do we have any capability or anything? Is there any, AST also has they're headquartered here for their attachment. Is there any way to contract with them for any kind of services, or do we have a mutual aid agreement with them, or if it's the middle of the night and there's 1 officer, I mean, assuming there's an NPD that you can call in. I guess I'm just looking at these. I don't know what the answer is. I would jump on that bandwagon, I guess, as well as I look at us going from 4 million to a 4.2 on an amended, and then up to 4.9. And we've got to make sure that we're taking care of other priorities as well. I'm really looking at this one. I probably spent the most time of my entire week looking at police.
I can tell you what, I met Sergeant Rafferty just last week. He was actually asking for our assistance. So, but I offered ours as well. And hopefully, one of the things we'll be also accommodating is we're going to allow the troopers to have their radios chipped so they in turn can hear our conversation. Before, that was never done. So now when we're needing the services of an additional officer, we'd be able to call on the channel, they'll be able to hear us, and it just makes good sense.
Safer, much safer.
Yes.
To be continued.
Yeah. Looking forward to our tour on Thursday.
Nikki,
Yes.
next.
In animal services, we have $33,300 for the ACO contract, as well as the annual vaccine clinic. $5,000 in operating supplies, We have 16,000 in building maintenance materials, which is a significant increase, and a $10,000 placeholder for land building improvements. Both of those are meant to do some maintenance on our animal control building. Total budget of $68,302. Questions on animal services?
Renegotiating that contract, it will be done not with individuals, but with an LLC. Nonprofit. So I'm probably a couple days from having that done. So what we may see is a line item for a contract. So, I'm probably I'm going to suggest we meet next Monday too for a work session to keep this going. So. Oh, yeah, we're getting there.
7 o'clock.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, you're good. Somebody. Yeah, we're almost done. Mhm.
Questions, other questions that you want to highlight and always feel free to stop by the office or text us or,
All right, we'll take a 5-minute break and then we get our meeting at 7.
Here.
Councilmember Miller.
Here.
Councilmember Green.
Here.
Councilmember Lust.
Here.
Councilmember Johnson.
He is excused.
Okay. And Student Representatives Jacenko. We have a quorum.
Awesome. Thank you. Chair would
Motion to approve.
love to see a motion to approve the agenda and modified in its format to follow the ordinanced order.
What?
I know what you're saying, but I'll second that.
Okay,
Do that.
great. So the changes to the existing agenda that would accrue as a result would be to switch unfinished business and new business in its order after citizens' comments. Also, to move the second citizens' comments down to just under the fiscal year 2603, under the city manager's report. And also to swap the council and mayor's comments order. This would follow the order listed in the city ordinance as far as agenda items go.
We need to add this.
An amendment to add that could be made, certainly. Is there a second?
Oh, sorry.
Did you specify where you'd like to add it?
So new business.
All right. Thank you. So first of all, we have a motion to amend the agenda to approve the motion. Sorry. We have a motion on an amendment to modify the agenda by adding the resolution. Is there any further discussion on that portion? Did you catch the second on it? It was made by Councilmember Martinson and seconded by, I believe, Councilmember Henderson. Any discussion on adding the resolution amendment? Hearing none, may call the roll.
Councilmember Miller.
Yes.
Councilmember Green.
Yes.
Councilmember Lust.
Yes.
Councilmember Martinson.
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson.
Yes.
Okay, now on the main motion, adjusting the agenda to conform to the ordinance order and approving it in the new order. Any further discussion? May call the roll, please.
What was the first and second on that one?
The first was Adam and the second was Adam. Sorry, Council Member Lust and Council Member Martinson.
Adam and Adam squared.
Wasn't trying to be confusing.
Okay. I think I got that. Councilmember Lust.
Yes.
Councilmember Martinson.
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Miller.
Yes.
Councilmember Green.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda would be approval of the minutes. You have the April 13th, 2026 common council meeting minutes there in your packet before you. Chair will entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion by Councilmember Martinson,
I'll second.
seconded by Councilmember Green. Any discussion on the minutes? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Martinson.
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Miller.
Yes.
Councilmember Green.
Yes.
Councilmember Lust.
Yes.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is communications. We have, first item, a thank you card to city staff from the Lee family. The second item is an April 20th, 2026 letter from the city manager to the alcohol package stores.
I hand delivered that, by the way, and talked to the managers too, so.
What was their
Really? That's why they're, huh? I mean, I really gotta, are you kidding? I went, no, that's you. So it was received well, at least the managers now know what they're responsible for.
Even though the city wasn't involved, wasn't the ABC board part of that conversation with the vendors?
And they said, leave it up to them.
Yeah, originally, yes.
But I think wasn't it a tri-party agreement? Didn't the ABC board acknowledge it or sign it or something? I don't
There's
know.
an
I may be wrong.
MOU.
But I'm
We
pretty
can't
sure.
find anything.
It's been a while, so,
Yeah,
but I think the ABC board was involved at some level
sure.
with the discussions between the vendors because of all of the
Yeah.
concern at the time about, the problems. So,
Well, at least, well, I say two. Would like to sit down and meet, so I thought I'd get some of the team together and sit down with them. And they just want to understand it better. At least one of them is very new. So,
everybody.
yeah, I just,
Okay, thanks.
Okay, no further questions on communications, then we'll move on to citizens' comments. If there's any citizens that wish to comment, now's the time to come forward.
Drew McCann, citizen of Nome, and thank you all for taking the time today, and some of you for really diving deep into your budget process. It's very appreciated. Two things I wanted to comment on today. Earlier in the work session, y'all talked about a 6% sin tax or whatever it's going to be called, and that going to the voters. In my mind, if you're going to take that to the voters, it would be nice to see some designated use of that fund if you're expecting the voters to approve that. I don't care if it's a pothole fund, a outdoor recreation fund, a potential rehab facility fund, whatever it is. I would just wish, and I know it has to be worded very specifically in the ordinance and in the laws, but it's doable to designate some of those taxes to a particular fund. The second thing is in relation to a initiative or ballot ordinance that I'm signing off on as a sponsor to relook at the tax on pool tabs currently done in the city of Nome. Another discussion that you guys have had several times. The big change now is that I think the nonprofits can help the city alleviate some of their burden that they provide to the nonprofits by fairly divvying out these pool tabs proceeds. Just the last, since the 1% increase, you might look at that and say, oh, that's just one additional percent that the nonprofit is paying the city. It would be if the tax was done in a way that's being proposed on the net sales. So what's being proposed is to take the total cost of the game, take out what's paid for the prizes, and to pay taxes on that true value. Currently, it's done on the total value of that box of pool tabs is what the tax is. And then money is paid out to vendors, money is paid out to the city, and the nonprofit's left with the smallest share of all of it. So just some of that to think about before you see that, before we start collecting signatures and bring it out for a vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. Is there any further public comment? All right, we'll move on to unfinished business, which we have none on the list there. So under new business, the clerk could read the ordinance, or sorry, the resolution by name.
Resolution 26-4-03, a resolution declaring May 5th, 2026 as Missing and Murdered Indigenous People Awareness Day.
Chair,
Make that motion.
Second.
motion by Councilmember Henderson, seconded by Councilmember Miller. Is there any discussion? All right, call the roll on the resolution.
Councilmember Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
Councilmember Green,
Yes.
Councilmember Lust,
Yes.
Councilmember Martin.
Yes.
That resolution passed.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, we have a guest. We have Ms. Johnson from the Village of Solomon. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, hey, how are you? Good. I want to thank, first of all, Ms. Johnson sending us this information. But this year, I'm really proud, Mayor, of our team, that this came from our team members to do this, to participate on the 4th with the events. I am going to be closing the city at 4 o'clock to allow our folks to walk and be a part of the ceremony. So I'm going to encourage City Council. We'd love for you to walk with us and, in support of this. So I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Johnson for the event that day and anything else you want to talk about.
Well, thank you. Deila Johnson, Tribal Resources Director for the Village of Solomon. I don't know if I need to share a ton of information since the resolution has passed very quickly. So I was very, very excited that this was even a resolution brought to the city. So I appreciate that with the city manager and the support. But if I were to share some information that I had planned, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak, and for many of us here, MMIP, Missing and Murdered Indigenous Persons, and MMIWG for Women and Girls are not just issues we hear about, but they are deeply personal. They involve our families, our friends, and our communities. They are still too many names, too many stories, and too many unanswered questions that people carry every day. Some of those names are close to home, like Florence Okpialuk, and more recently, Kelly Hunt. We say their names because they matter and because they are not forgotten. Since 2019, I've helped organize our annual walk in Nome to honor those who are missing and those we've lost. That work has been supported by strong local partnerships, including our Norton Sound Health Corporation, Sitnasak, and Coeric. That's far beyond our city to the surrounding villages that rely on Nome as a regional hub. The impact is real and it's ongoing. We also know that many cases are still underreported and unresolved. That's why awareness matters, not just for remembrance, but for prevention, for better response, and for making sure systems work better moving forward. I want to acknowledge and thank the city for taking this step. This resolution is meaningful. It doesn't start the work, but it strengthens it. It brings the city in the city, our tribal partners, and our community organizations to keep this work moving forward. At the end of the day, this is about visibility, dignity, and making sure no one is forgotten. Kuyana, and I look forward to seeing you on Tuesday, May 5.
The walk begins at what, 4:30? Do you want to kind of walk through the event?
So we will open at Old St. Joe's, which we appreciate the waiver on the venue rental. We normally have to gather donations and small grants to put on the event. So Old St. Joe's is going to open around 3:30 for sign making if you want to come early or if you're able to. And then we will be starting the walk in front of Northwest Campus to walk through Front Street back to Old St. Joe's. We will have red bags with names on every bag to hand out for people to represent a name. So you're welcome to come and pick out a name or just grab any name. We'll have it already in front of the Northwest Campus. And then we're going to also ask that everyone that participates, it'll have a LED light inside the bag. So put it outside of your house through the night so that it just kind of symbolizes that you participated and you're helping raise awareness around each of those bags. So we'll have the walk start at 4:30 in front of Northwest Campus, walk to Old St. Joe's, and have somewhat of a vigil style open healing circle. Everyone is welcome to participate, and we want to honor names, have a couple guest speakers to talk about preventative measures and local resources, and really to just kind of honor some of the most recent cases and ongoing cases locally that are impacting our community members.
We appreciate you organize the event, Mr. Mayor. Back to you.
Oh, thank you. I didn't organize the event. I believe she did.
Well, she did, but I was opening it up back to you.
All right. Next item would be the utility manager's report.
Not here tonight.
John's online.
Oh, he is online?
John's online.
Good heavens.
Hi there, yes, I'm online. Sorry, printer's going, but it'll stop in a second. I hope you can hear me all right.
Yes.
Good evening. It's good to be back in Nome with some wonderful weather. Regardless of the fact that we all were not real happy when we had to turn around after 2 attempts in Nome on Saturday, I appreciate the pilot doing what is safe. So anyway, working a few evenings here trying to catch up on some of the things I missed. Just wanted to briefly report on our engine overhaul. That is progressing relatively well. We still are expecting some tools that the repair people, specialty tools that they shipped the wrong thing, but they adjusted the timeline such that we don't expect it to impact the overall 45-day timeline or the cost of the project. Oh, I guess I'm supposed to look up there. Sorry.
Look at me.
The line crew's been busy working over at the new Norton Sound buildings and getting more of those connected to power. So that's been an ongoing project, and we're glad to have that getting completed. We are working on completing the final of our labor negotiations for our 3 contracts, and I expect those will be completed here in the next week or so that they can go through the approval processes of the board later in the month as well as the council. What I was printing there was the latest and draft for publication of our first audit that has been done. BDO just sent that up. It's been reviewed by the various others, and I'm just doing a final look at it. And the work continues on that, but good progress on it. Then we will be sending out bills here in the next day or so for the month of April. And there were some questions or comments raised by a few public members about how we had lumped charges together. And that was what we've done with other metered services, water, where we don't take and list out a whole bunch of components on it. We just list it as a single item. But we will give an explanation to that, to the people. If you get your bill electronically, you're going to have to go search for it at our website because we can't send that out to you if you get the electronic bill. So please open your bill and read the back of it this month if you have any questions. And I think that's about it for the moment, and be happy to answer any other questions you might have.
Any questions?
John, this is Adam. I was just wondering, and I can't seem to recall if you guys are on a July or a December fiscal year calendar. Are you guys working on your? Are you guys working? How is progress coming along on your fiscal year budget?
We are working on that as well. I'm trying to get just the last, make sure we have everything in our audit things posted correctly. And I think we're about done with that. So I said I'd have it in April. It's probably the first meeting in May.
Any further questions?
John, this is Scott. Any
Scott.
any information you're able to share regarding this year's fuel situation? I know I'm getting a lot of questions regarding availability, pricing. You know, there's a lot of unknowns at this point, and I didn't know if you guys have any information that you can share to address any of those issues.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think everybody in the world is confused on what's going on these days. Hopefully there will come some steady line that we can work on. But the utility continues to be a part of the Western Alaska Fuel Group with Kotzebue, Unalakleet, and a couple other utilities. And we have called a meeting of that group for this Wednesday so that we can hear from the get our requirements in, and then hear from some of the industry people what they anticipate things can be. The utility does have a contract with Crowley that goes for 26, 27, and 28. So Crowley is our supplier, and we've already locked in with them the adder, as we call it, the transportation component of it, so that pricing is based on the actual indices for a 30-day period in August. And I just hope things have calmed down a little by that time. That's council member, basically the only thing I can say at this time, but I'll be happy to report next time if there's anything else that comes out of that fuel group meeting.
Thanks, John.
Anyone else? Thank you, John.
All right, thank you guys. Take care.
Next up will be the city manager's report.
Yes, sir. You'll see the department their quarterly reports. I do want to mention you're getting your first with our building inspector. If you would look at that, and he asked me to ask you if you want it set up a different way. Is there other information you want or need from building inspections and that type thing? He said, please, if you'll get your questions to me, and he would be glad to reformat that. So this is a baseline getting started. So
Doesn't the planning commission get a lot more detailed report?
well,
So
that we're starting that, but what
I'm
I'm
fine with what this is.
Yeah. But we want to do a report that is with the planner and the inspector, and have those at every meeting. So I appreciate him getting this together. Yeah. So those are the reports. I knew we were going to be here a while. So I do want to mention at this time, we do have the tour this Thursday. If you can meet here at 9:15, and we're going to have 2 vehicles. That way we can keep everybody together all day. It's probably going to go until between 4 and 5 o'clock. Wear comfortable clothes and the regular stuff you wear, and maybe boots, because we're taking you to the landfill, the monofill. Also, you need to see it, and I just feel that's very important to me for all of us to go out. And then we are having some lunch out at the Foster Building, kind of end up there, and then we're going to work into recreation at 1 o'clock. The ports. So I've right now got about an hour and a half or so for the port. And then 4 o'clock police department. So if we run a little long, the chief would be okay if we need like another 30 minutes, then go to the police department. And then you can do dinner. You can cook. Chief's been bringing me food. I think he's trying to, yeah. He is. The other is I would like, Mr. Mayor, if you would allow us to set another budget work session for Monday at 5:30. That is the 4th. So if that's the case, we'll set that and get that out for a work session. And
A bunch of us are traveling.
are you?
I'm
Okay.
traveling next week.
When, I know it's kind of a,
I could probably zoom in.
I won't be able to do one, I don't think. I would be available. I would add that BOE is next week on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
yeah.
I'm not gonna be here.
Oh,
I have an appointment in Anchorage.
we're going to have to look at that.
It's been on the schedule. I've seen it.
Can you reschedule BOE?
Reschedule BOE.
I mean, is that possible? Or is that, like, it's a question.
Is it impossible? No, it's not impossible. It's just a lot of extra work.
Okay. Can members attend via Zoom just like regular council meeting?
No,
They have to be in person?
this will be considered a judicial
Right,
decision.
exactly.
Yeah.
I need at least 4.
So, okay, well, let's look at that in the morning, see what we can do.
Okay.
So Monday's not going to work. I'll look at the schedule and I'll shoot some
I
dates
can
out.
probably zoom in if that helps.
Okay. All right, we'll see you Thursday morning on that, and then I'll have some dates for you, so. Okay, that's all I have at this point.
Okay. The next item would be council members' comments.
Councilmember Green.
Thank you for the detailed budget during the work session. I look forward to looking at it again. I can be here for Monday's meeting.
Councilmember Miller.
No comments.
I'm gonna switch it up and go to student representatives.
Some student council members went down to Juneau for an OSA conference, and they presented a resolution me and my friend Kai made for the Nome Youth Court to be implemented into the Nome Public Schools disciplinary system. So me and Kai were gonna have a meeting with Jill Peters. I think she does a lot of the behavioral direction stuff within our school, and our principal, Ms. Smith, and some other student council members. The student council is also doing a service project, and that was the closed drive. We're wrapping that up, and we were able to head to NATEC and wash the clothes to make sure that they're bed bug proofed or whatever, and that we're sending clean clothes and stuff. And we're gonna go through everything and organize things. We're also doing a recycling project, and that's part of the service project. It's kind of like a reduce, reuse, recycle thing. It's clear plastics and aluminum cans, and I think we partnered with Coeric to export that out of Nome to make sure it actually gets recycled.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Councilmember Lust.
Looking forward to getting my boots dirty on Thursday and taking a tour around with particular interest as we're learning about city budgets and seeing the condition of our city facilities and trying to, again, figure out where to get money to where it needs to go to the most. As we go through our budget process, we passed our school contribution at 3 million. I imagine there's going to be discussion moving forward about trying to eke out a little bit more to up that. So when I'm looking at the budget, I'm looking at everywhere to where it makes sense. But other than that, and then the discussion about roads this summer, I'm looking forward to seeing what's on the plate about that. I am a big believer, and it's time to start exploring the possibility for a second bypass road. I know the Greg Kruschik is a designated bypass road, but it has, with the expansion of the hospital and everything over the past decade, it's kind of time to give up the ghost on that and admit that it's a street, not a bypass. But anyways, that's all I got.
Thank you. Councilmember Martin.
I don't have anything further.
Okay. Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Dan, for providing us with the budget packet, even though it was on a Saturday. So we had a day or two to review it before the council meeting. So I appreciate that. And I think because of that, I think there was some pretty meaningful discussion because council members had a chance to review the packet ahead of time, even if it's a couple days. So, a couple of weeks ago, we were kind of, throwing the packet, right. And that made for some challenging decisions. And so anyways, if we can not do that again, and, that's great. But yeah, great budget discussion, a lot of creative ideas. I'm really intrigued with the concept of if there's new revenue sources, that are dedicated or passed, whether it be by the council or by a community referendum, that some of this additional revenue can be dedicated for a specific purpose, like education, potholes, whatever. And I think that is super helpful. And so, I'm looking forward to when we start, doing a deep dive into those various, ideas about, revenue generation. And I appreciate the fact I know Lee and Nikki are doing a lot of work. We're moving in the right direction. 2 weeks ago, I think it was $1.1 million deficit. Now we're at, what was it, not even 300,000. So we're definitely moving in the right direction. So I appreciate that. So thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, so our commentator from the public today mentioned an initiative that has been, an initiative application has been filed with the city clerk's office for changing the way poll taps is taxed. I believe the next step will be that the clerk should be approving or developing a appropriate signature for the folks gathering, for sponsors that are willing to gather signatures to get enough signatures to potentially put that on the ballot. There's an ordinance that accomplishes the same mission that is ready to be looked at by the city council anytime the city council wishes to bring it forward. It could be placed on the agenda for the next meeting if a council member wishes to have it considered. And it would accomplish the same thing, and it would, if that was passed, it would eliminate the initiative. The ballot initiative seems to simply change the way poll tabs is taxed from the way it is now on the gross to a sales tax on the ideal net. I think that it's important to go ahead and pass this concept through in order to continue the viability of pull tabs in town. Not just our town. There are other changes in the industry that are being looked at by the legislature, including a bill that would make pull tab TVs essentially to go to an electronic pull tabs scheme. Paper pull tabs seem to be the cost of printing, distributing, manufacturing is closely coming to the point where they're no longer considered very viable, and already manufacturers are cutting back on their offerings. The e-tabs has a different mandated structure to it that once it passed we can look at, but is pretty similar to what the city is doing now, which isn't a great thing for the nonprofits, but compounded with what the city's current taxing scheme is, it will absolutely put pull tabs out of business, in my opinion. So even though it appears like it's an immediate $300,000 hit in potential to the city budget, I believe that it's a diminishing pie, and we need to change how we're doing how we're taxing it, or we're going to eliminate that potential for citizens to choose the charity and fund the charity of their choice in this manner. That's all I got to say on pull tabs for right now. On another issue, I'm still looking for planning commissioners. If there's anyone out there that's concerned enough about city planning to be willing to get involved, we do not have 7 on that board yet, and I'd love to see 7. So I'm just urging everyone who might be interested to give me a shout. I'll get you an application. It's a little bit of a pain in the bumper, but I greatly appreciate those that have chosen to serve, as well as all of my councilman members here. And of course, I'm greatly appreciative of all of the city staff of what you do. So thank you all very much. And that's it for me. Good night. Motion to adjourn by Councilmember Henderson. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Martinson. All those in favor, say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.